We have many volunteers who are part of the IT cell and the digital communications team.
Hello and welcome to New Indian Express. I am Alisha and today I am in conversation with BJP Youth Wing Leader, Karnataka BJP Youth Wing Leader, Tejasvi Surya. Hi Tejasvi.
Hi.
You were introduced to the panel that we had right now as the BJP IT cell chief for Karnataka, right? I'm a little interested to know how your BJP cell works at this time, especially with the employment sector, as in what are the recruitment criterias? How do you recruit people to be a part of the IT cell?
Okay. First of all, I am not the IT cell chief of Karnataka.
Okay.
I am the general secretary for the party's youth wing in Karnataka. But I had an opportunity to overlook the IT and digital communications department during the Karnataka elections, and I'm playing a small part in the national elections now in the same digital communication space. So answering your question as to how the recruitment happens, there isn't a formal process in terms of an employee kind of arrangement in the party.
Okay.
We are a very cadre driven party, we are a very volunteer driven party. Therefore, we have many volunteers who are part of the IT cell and the digital communications team. However, there are a few employees who are the technical employees, for example, the ones who are in charge of creating, say, graphic designers and video editors and infographic and animators. So these are a very handful of them, a few of them who are employees. But apart from that, the whole process is purely volunteer driven.
So now that we're talking about the digital aspect, it's phenomenal how BJP has so many followers on, you say, Twitter or Facebook. They have 10 million, 11 million likes on Facebook, whereas the Congress doesn't even stand at half, barely 5 million or something. So there's elections are coming up. Karnataka elections just got over, and we have the Lok Sabha, the big election coming up. So a lot of content to be generated right now, a lot of work to be done. What happens between these employees who are on a pay scale? You said limited number, but they're still there, right? So what happens to them when you don't have an election per se? When there is no election happening, what do? They still work there, or
no? They will still there because every day, whether there is election or not, the party is a 365-day functioning unit. Therefore, they are there to support the party, irrespective of whether there is an election or not. But there is an election in India at every point in time, at some corner or the other.
Of course.
So during the Lok Sabha elections, the workload is quite intense. But during the other non-election period, if you may call that, the workload may be less, but the party still is working. So all office bearers of the party have work.
It's a year-long process, right? Yearly process.
It's people are there through the year.
Yeah, of course. There are graphic designers, there are video editors in your team, in the digital team. Since you said there is no per se criteria for employment, right? I have been going through the Karnataka BJP page, doing some research, and there were some tweets with little grammatical errors. Who filters them through? Do you happen to go through them or filter, or are they like their own bosses? So they put up something, they have a pattern, they have a set of pre-made infograph, they just change certain things and just push it.
No, there is an editorial process. There are people who monitor the content, factual accuracy and editorial integrity of the data that we put in. But I think there may be a discrepancy, one or two, that may have crept in inadvertently, which happens to the best of the newspapers.
Of course.
So in a volunteer driven setup where people are not completely professional, but are doing it in their volunteer capacity, a small discrepancy here and there may have taken place. But I would say that the factual data that the BJP's handles, that official verified handles that put out, are quite solid in terms of its factual integrity.
Okay. Talking about factual integrity, Mr. Piyush Goyal recently put up a video of Vande Bharat train, where it said that it's doctored, as in a lot of fact-checking websites are there these days, and they have claimed that it's a doctored video that the speed was increased in that video. It was sped up. But then it's not something like huge of a misinformation, but again, that's again factually incorrect when you're talking about even increasing little bit of the speed. So you're saying that the BJP...
Did Mr. Piyush Goyal in his tweet put out the fact that the train travels at 280 kilometers per hour? Did he say that?
No.
Okay. So the fact of the matter is that the train travels at 180 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
That is the fact that has been communicated.
Yeah, definitely.
It happens to be the fastest train in India.
Yeah.
And I think the fact remains that.
No, but what I'm saying is...
faster, even assuming that it was like what you say, that it was a video where it showed the train to be faster than what it is, then even assuming that the allegation is true, the fact remains that we have never stated that the train is not is faster than 180 kilometers per hour.
Right, but what I'm saying, it's still misinformation. At times it happens that certain pages, right, they push a lot of, I won't say fake news because I feel it's it's overused and it's a little bastardized these days, but misinformation, it's being spreading a lot. What is your take on that?
Well, see, Alisha, social media and such platforms like Twitter, Facebook, etc. today are a double-edged sword. So the advantage of these platforms is that all of us have great access to information and content, and we also have a space where we can put our views out. At the same time, these platforms have served as a great tool to correct fake news and to bring in the right information.
Right.
And this I'm saying as a matter of principle across all parties. Say for example, the Congress has or supporters of the Congress or the left ideology have put out a fake news. People from the so-called right wing have corrected them, and vice versa, both sides. I'm not saying that that any one particular set of people have a complete repository over or hold over truth.
Right.
Having said that, the challenge with open media and social media like this is that they are a self-regulating platform.
Right.
So if there is fake news, the best method to counter it is another website or another effort which counters fake news and puts out the real facts. So I think it's like I said, it's a double-edged sword. Would you want government regulation? I am afraid I don't want any government regulation on social media, because irrespective of the political color of the government, I wouldn't want my free speech and my access, my freedom to write what I want and publish what I want to be monitored by any government for that matter.
But the government is regulating what we do. I mean, they're legit snooping into our computers. I mean, you're well aware of it, right? And so at a point when the government is at...
The government is not snooping into our computers. There are a certain statutory authorities which were authorized by the erstwhile UPA government to monitor content online which may have potential to harm the national security and integrity interests of the country, and I think in that regard some steps have been taken, and these steps are taken irrespective of which party is in power in the center or in the state. And having said that, personally I feel the right to privacy is an extremely important and integral part of every individual, and the interference of the state insofar as our personal lives is concerned, especially with respect to data privacy and internet privacy, has to be upheld, and the government's role, or rather interference, must be as minimal as is possible.
Right. And Tejasvi, you're a youth leader. You are one of the prominent faces of Bharatiya Janata Party, representing the youth, for the youth. You must be interacting with the youth a lot. If I have to take your perception, like what do you think the youth at this point want, especially in terms of employment, right? And so there have been reports that the employment rate is all-time low, and whereas in the parliament we don't even rake up this, the Bharatiya Janata Party has been dismissing the fact that it's not true at all. They're going to cross-check it, they're going to run their own survey. What do you have to say about the employment? Because India is a very young country, we need employment. So how does one generate employment, and how does the government generate employment?
Alisha, please answer me when I ask you these questions, because I also see, irrespective of our political, affiliations, there are certain issues which are far more important than any political party. For example, the issue of jobs is extremely important for a young man. If you have the burden of supporting a family at home, and you have old parents to take care of, and you don't have a job, that is not BJP versus Congress. It's about finding a solution. But that doesn't mean that facts have to be dismissed in a manner that suits certain political narratives. The World Bank has stated that the last 2 years, 3 years in fact, has witnessed the highest amount of people in India coming out of poverty line. 44 people come out of poverty line every single minute in India. That has been the record of this government. Previously, the pace at which people are getting out of poverty line has been the highest under this government.
Right.
Are you saying that 44 people come out of poverty line in India every minute without having sustainable jobs?
But
Point one. Point two, we are looking at formal data, data from the formal sector, data, unavailability of data from the informal sector, and there's a debate over how lack of data related to jobs is also a very serious concern. I think irrespective of the party in power, governments must institutionalize a process, and I think this government has done some efforts to get a better data availability and accuracy. Niti Aayog is working on that. I think we will have better data to make better policies. Having said that, the highest number of roads in the last 5 years has been built by this government. Who built these roads? Did we get people from Italy to build these roads? People from India built these roads. It obviously created a lot of jobs. More than 15 lakh crore 15 lakh crore loans have been disbursed under Mudra Yojana. Assuming that one loan sustained or created one job, because it's business, so it will generally create more than that. But even assuming it created only one job, you have 15 crore jobs right there. Roads have been constructed, television, there is increase in DTIs, there is increase in digital connectivity, villages have now gotten electricity, such massive infrastructure activities have taken place. All of these infrastructure activities have created a large amount of public employment.
Right. So you're saying that irrespective of the data is important, but irrespective of that, employment generation is at a good pace. But you also mentioned that people have
employment generation has taken place at an unprecedented level. There is a great amount of jobs that have been created. However, you must also realize that we are a country of 1 billion people. So and we are a young country. So every single day, more and more number of young people are coming into the job market. When this is the scenario, there is bound to be a far higher cry for more jobs in a country like ours. Whereas look at countries like Ireland, Scotland, and other Scandinavian countries where the problem is of an aging population, where you have more jobs and less people. In our country, the scenario is different. So in such a challenging scenario where there is such high demand for jobs and the population is so large, do you not want a corrupt-free government? Would you not want a government that delivers on high infrastructure? Would you not want a government that creates large public infrastructure which further enables public generation of public employment? Would you not want a government which actually facilitates more money in people's hands? These are steps that need to be taken.
But you say that every hour 44, correct me if I'm wrong, 44 people, they are getting out of below the poverty line. But is getting out of that criteria in India, it's I think rupees 32 per day. If you earn below that, then you're below the poverty level. If you earn above that, you are out of it. So you think 34, say even 40 rupees a day, is that enough to run a family? That's not sustainable job. I can cross that boundary. I can go out of that list. But
Alisha,
it's not
I
a sustainable
appreciate
job.
and I'm with you in sharing the concern that we need to do better. But are you not happy that 44 people every single minute are getting out of such dire poverty? Even assuming it is 38 or 40 rupees.
But
Is it not a heartening fact that 44 people are getting out of such that the quagmire of ever killing poverty every
Right.
single minute? Is that not a good thing?
yeah, do you think 6,000 rupees enough for a farmer as a basic minimum income support?
I think you have not, with due respect, the 6,000 rupees is not to be understood as a basic minimum income support. The 6,000 rupees is in addition to the other schemes that the government has brought in
Yeah.
to facilitate and make the farmers' income and life better. For example, this government under Narendra Modi has brought the largest Fasal Bhima Yojana, which is the largest insurance scheme for farmers. So no more, gone are the days where a farmer would invest in his crops, and then due to some unforeseen vagaries of the monsoon lose his crops and would be on the streets, because now he has a first time a solid insurance cover.
Okay.
In addition to that, this government has also brought many insurance schemes, daily insurance, worker insurance for the farmers, with as low a premium as 300 rupees per year.
Okay.
Also, this government has ensured that there is timely delivery of urea. There has not been a single riot in the entire country anywhere in the last 5 years where the farmers had to go on the street demanding for timely supply of urea, which was a commonplace in the previous governments. The government has also actively worked towards doubling of farmers' income, animal husbandry, and creating of national markets, national mandis. So I think the 6,000 rupees that was given was only one of the larger, one of the host of other incentives which were rather policy measures that have been taken by this government to make the life of the farmer far more prosperous. So I think it should not be seen in isolation. It is very myopic and very incorrect to see it in isolation, as 6,000 rupees is the money that the government is giving for the farmer to live off this 6,000 rupees for the whole year. That is not the whole.
Okay. Talking about farmers and the doles and everything, where is the data of farmer suicide? Why has there not been a data in the past 2 years? Why don't we have the numbers?
Well, I think over the last few years, irrespective of this government or not, like I said, there has been a lot of lack of data, or rather I would say a lack of correct data in the public domain. And I think Niti Aayog and the government has taken this as a very serious issue. All these years we were depending on the NCRB data for detecting farmer suicides. But I think the government of the day is developing far more scientific and reliable methods to map issues like farmers suicides and many other data points as well. So I think with far more concentration and impetus given to data collection and integrity of data collection, I think we will have more solid and reliable data in the coming days.
Yeah, but when in the coming days, when you say coming days, it's been more than 2 years that we last saw a data sheet. When can we expect it to come up? Why has it taken so long? Data collection definitely takes time, yes, but
no, not just data collection. Now, see, when you are reviewing the whole process of collecting the data, you are coming up with new points as to how these data has to be collected, and you are determining new pointers on which data has to be collected. Methodologies are different. I think it's a very holistic change that the government is trying to do, and it's not that the government wants to hide anything. It's the fact that the new processes have been put in place and they're going to take some time.
Where do you see yourself in this party? In Karnataka, I'm not even talking about the national aspect, because we have a lot of big faces out there. Talk about Karnataka. Where do you see yourself in say next 5 years?
Well, see, this is not a corporate, a career,
Yeah, of
where you
course.
have a chartered career path where 5 years from now I want to be VP or CEO or
Yeah.
something like that. But to be very honest with you, it is primarily the ideology of the party and the that motivates me, and I find great pleasure in the work that I do. And like some old wise man had once said, the reward for work is the pleasure of doing the work. So I think I'm happy doing the work I'm doing, so I don't want to see what 5 years from now holds, or in terms of positions or authority. I'm just happy doing the work I do, and I hope I get to continue the work I'm doing.
Okay. And you sat at a panel where we were talking about dissent. Now, dissent in campus. Do you think we still have a place for dissent if he's from a college or university like Jadavpur or JNU and he's talking against the government? That's basically dissent. Then you don't have to put a label on him, right? But then people like Vivek Agnihotri immediately put a label on him and call him urban Naxal.
No, what Vivek Agnihotri is trying to do is he's trying to reverse the game of how the communists play it.
Okay.
So the communists, basically, their modus operandi has always been, not just in India but globally, has been, if you talk to a communist in a debate, the first thing they do is to label the opponent. So it's Vivek Agnihotri is now trying to turn tables and give them a taste of their own medicine. So if you where do you think these the origins of all these labels are? Fascist, communalist, feminist, Islamophobic. These are all communist generated labels. So yeah, labeling is their domain.
I don't think being labeled as a feminist is something wrong.
No, and whatever, feminazists or something,
Feminazis,
whatever, so these labels are all
I'm not pretty sure if feminazi is a word.
I don't know. Basically, my point is that
yeah.
These guys are these are terrorist organizations who are funded from across the border, and these guys have their supporters in the form of, say, an Arundhati Roy. They have their supporters in the form of Kavita Krishnan and the likes, who are English speaking, suave, in 5-star hotels in the cities, who lobby for them. You have somebody like Prashant Bhushan who goes to the Supreme Court for their causes. You have a Binayak Sen. So all these people are living in the confines of our cities, who are trying to manipulate the media, who are trying to manipulate the way you and I think, by writing articles, by filing baseless PILs in the court, trying to adulterate the streams of justice. So I think these are all urban Naxals. The ideology remains the same.
Okay, insurgency.
And the ideology, not just insurgency, the ideology is to destabilize, disintegrate, and dismember the Indian Union. And I am not saying this. Dr. Ambedkar had said this in the Indian Parliament, in the Constituent Assembly of India. He had said that the greatest threat to the Indian Constitution and the Indian democracy comes from the communists. And the extreme of the communists are the Naxalites.
Yeah.
So Dr. Ambedkar had warned. We should have taken his warning very seriously. And the biggest fraud that these communists play on us is that they keep calling themselves Ambedkarites, when the matter of fact is, the fact of the matter is, Ambedkar hated them. Ambedkar wanted communism to be wiped out of India.
He also wanted caste to be wiped out of India.
Of course, it should be.
So you do not believe in casteism?
I do not believe in discrimination of caste. Discrimination based on caste. Caste is a reality in Indian society. Whether I believe in it or not,
you cannot do away with it.
It's like whether I believe in gravity. Will gravity stop working if I do not believe in it? It will still continue. In the same way, caste system, or the jati paddhati is a very it's a social reality in India. However, we must all come together to eliminate whatever discrimination based on caste goes on. That's something we must do.
You said the likes of Arundhati Roy, Prashant Bhushan, they are urban Naxals. The students from JNU, again JNU being the hot topic, say Umar or Kanhaiya Kumar or others, they are also labeled as urban Naxals, right? They are just mere scholars or mere student activists.
That's better. Scholars, the word scholar is quite too...
stretching too far. Student activists will call them as of now. So they barely have any followers or fan base, okay?
Are you sure?
Yeah, they're barely, they're
No,
limited.
no, no, that's good to know actually.
They're limited to a certain section of the society, right? Their reach is limited to a certain section of the society. What threat could they possibly possess to this country? I mean, at a place when we have leaders saying hateful speeches, spewing hate, it is across the political spectrum. I'm not going to come at BJP alone, but these people being called urban Naxals, so much being talked about them, so much putting 3-4 students into jeopardy, slapping sedition charges, everything. Now we have some 12,000 pages charge sheet against them, and that took 3 years to come up with. So again, what possible threat could they pose to this country? They're merely nothing.
How do you know?
They don't have. That's what.
How do you know? Have you done an investigation?
No, but what I'm trying to say.
No, I want to know on what basis are you coming to the conclusion these guys are not threat at all?
Okay, I'm saying is we have people like Akbaruddin Owaisi, we have people like Yogi Adityanath. I'm talking about Yogi Adityanath, of him prior to becoming chief minister, and we know about the speeches. I can quote some if you like, but we all know the reality. Well, Akbaruddin Owaisi is spewing hate in Hyderabad. He went to jail for that. And this man, Yogi Adityanath, was also at that time saying communal things. Now, like I can quote something from you that if during the 2007 hate speech case that I'm referring to. Now, the thing is...
what did he say?
He said that if Muslims can come and destroy your property, nobody is stopping you from doing the same. He told that to a gathering of Hindus after a riot, right? You can read up on this. We all know it's on record.
No, assuming that that is true, I am not holding a brief for anyone here. But if the state machinery collapses, and if there is a cultural, if there's a group of people who are going to come and attack you, and if the state is not in your support,
right,
what will you tell your followers?
Okay.
What would you do if you were in the position? Would you tell your parents that the police is not going to come to your support because the police is under a state dispensation which does not support your idea?
Right.
And then a few of your neighbors are out to slit your throats. What will you tell your parents? So
it's justified.
What will you do? I'm asking you. What will you tell them?
I've not been in that position, so I don't know what to do.
So maybe if you ever get into such a position, I don't want you to, because that's a horrible, horrific place to be in. But think, what would you do? Would you ask your loved ones to go and surrender and commit suicide or certain death, embrace certain death, or would you ask them to stand up for themselves? Right.
But again, that's a very normalizing the situation, what you're saying. But
no, it isn't. Because in 1990, we are all 1990 and post 1990 people, and I assume you're of the similar age group. So 1990, the year most of us were born, Kashmiri Pandits were driven out of their homes.
Yes, I'm aware of it.
Yes, so it is not normalizing. It happened. It happened 28 years ago. And the state was a mute spectator.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then there are allegations that the army couldn't reach at that time. Army was delayed for a day, etc., etc. But then that's again a completely different topic to talk about.
Is it a fact or not that millions were driven out of their homes?
Yeah,
that's it. That's all that matters.
Of course they were.
All right.
And there's no denying in that.
That's all.
Nobody can deny.
So therefore, when the state fails you, these kind of statements come.
You take up law and order in your own hands.
You don't. It's inevitable. Whether you like it or not, it's self-defense. That's how the world works. That is why precisely you need a strong state. The monopoly to do violence must only be with the state. Right. The monopoly to use force, rather, must rest only with the state. Therefore, you need a strong state.
Coming back to the point, again, these three people or these 4-5 bunch of people, youth leaders, student, politicians, whatever, how are they a threat to the country? I just want to know. Tell me, why are they a threat to a country?
I'm not saying they are a threat to the country. The ideology that they believe in is certainly a threat to the country.
Threat to the
country. Of course, because the ideology calls for tukde of this country. The ideology that they profess and propagate calls for jung against my motherland, which is violence.
Of course.
And why should you not be worried? You should be as worried as me.
Right.
If someone here is calling for violence against you, would you not be worried? I would be. I mean, I love my life. So I would, I mean, if you forget country, society and all of that for a minute, I would be worried about my life, man. If someone is calling for violence against, certain ideas I believe in.
So are they calling for violence? Because nowhere can
No,
I
weren't
see
they?
them.
What does the Bharat tere tukde honge inshallah and jang rahegi, what does it mean?
It's doctored, right?
Has it been proven that it is doctored?
Has it been proven that it's not doctored?
So, well, let's wait for the courts to give an answer.
Right.
The charge sheet is filed, like you said, a 12,000-page charge sheet. So I'm sure
90 days prior to the election. Very great timing, I must say.
It's all right. The police take their own time. So
3 years.
They may have, I mean, because they wanted to perhaps do their job right. So they have collected a lot of information, like you said, 12,000 pages. So,
that's a lot.
Yeah. So let's see. Will it stand the scrutiny of the court?
Right. Well, thank you for joining me in this conversation. With me, I have the very young, bright and BJP youth leader, Tejasvi Surya. Thank you so much, Tejasvi.
Thank you, Alisha. Thank you so much.